Good morning, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. We're back with another episode of Tea with Sue. Oh, let me have a sip of my favorite brew here. I got to wondering this week, just because of a series of circumstances, I got to wondering, why does it take a 2x4 to move us? Now, if you're in the building trade, you know that a 2x4 is this long piece of wood that measures 2x4. And somehow in my past, people started talking about 2x4 experiences, meaning you got hit by a 2x4 right between the eyes. So while that, just the thought of that hurt me and hurt my brain, just to think about getting whacked by a 2x4, I confess that there have been quite a few times in my life when I had a 2x4 experience. And oh boy, it hurt. So I got to wondering, well, is it really necessary? Do we really require that kind of shock to the system to get us to move from wherever we are to where we need to be? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did. Because it appears that why it happens is not the right question. Is what happens after that is probably more specifically, and maybe a little bit of, well, why did that happen? And so it's a puzzle to me. And let me give you a little example of how this has worked in my own life, or not worked, as the case may be. So growing up as a young woman, I was determined to make my own way. I didn't want to do things the way I saw everybody else doing them. But of course, I was brought up to follow a certain pattern. And I didn't know how to do life much differently, even though I wanted to. So I fell into the pattern of what I had been brought up to know or understand about life. And of course, for young women, I was definitely, I guess I learned in school. Well, in those days, I could become, we're talking the 60s here, I could become a secretary, a nurse, a teacher, until I got married. Or I could have those things and get married. So that was pretty much what my options were that I felt at the time. And as life turned out, when my first 2x4 experience, my mom dying very suddenly when I was 17, whoa, that changed what I thought about life and what I knew about life. And all of a sudden, I didn't go off to university as I had planned. And I got married at 18 to a guy who was probably the least suitable especially in my dad's eyes, as a partner, as a life partner. And then I got divorced at 27. Well, there was another little 2x4 that, okay, this is what life is all about. Well, in the meantime, I'm struggling, right? I'm doing the best I can to work and to earn a living, and because the thing was, we'll make money and work hard. Well, I knew how to work hard, but it didn't seem that I was so good at making money. So it was a struggle, and I suffered. And at some point along the way, I started to settle for less than what I dreamed about, that I just got into the rote of life. Well, then when I got divorced for the first time, that was another shock to the system. And I realized, wow, I know nothing about love. Obviously, I know nothing about how to keep a relationship together and be happy in that. And in fact, I didn't even know if I loved myself. So that started a journey that I hadn't imagined I would ever be on. So there was a gift that came out of that that whole drama. And, it wasn't really socially acceptable to get divorced in those days. And so I was kind of labeled. And nonetheless, carry on I did. I got married again at 31 and divorced again at 54. Well, more 2x4 experiences along the way. Well, then the two biggest 2x4s came in quick succession. In 2007, when I had a near-death experience, that rocked my whole world. And then in 2011, a cancer diagnosis. Well, after a while, these blows keep coming, and it really shattered a lot of what I believed about myself, what I believed about my world, and believed about what it took to get through life. Because I'd been groomed and trained just through modeling, probably more than anything, that, well, you're meant to suffer in life, and life is hard, and you have to really struggle and work at it. Well, struggle is not a bad thing. I mean, let's face it, a butterfly doesn't become the magnificent creation that it is without struggling mightily to get out of the cocoon. And so I think there's lots of ways that we're cocooned in the idea of what life is meant to be, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. And the traditions build, year upon year, generation upon generation. Well, those of us that say, wait a minute, I'm not sure that I absolutely need to settle for that. Isn't there more? Isn't there a way to grow out of that? Just like we grow out of our shoes throughout the years. Well, isn't it possible to grow out of less than satisfactory situations, behaviors, ideas, traditions, all of that kind of thing? Isn't it possible? Well, of course it's possible. And it's largely, once we get into that mode, it's a choice. Initially, our choices are pretty unconscious. We choose because that's the way it's always done, or that's the way our parents did it, or that's what all our friends are doing, and so on. But once we become consciously aware, and I got more consciously aware pretty young. I was probably about 24 when I started on a personal growth journey and became aware that there was more. There was more to me. There was more to the world, more to my idea of the universe and how things worked than I had ever imagined. And so I had questions, and I wanted answers. I don't know why it took all those 2x4 experiences to begin to really open me up to the answers that were there for me. But it did. It just absolutely did. And nightmares that some of those experiences were, it has given me a different perspective on life. It has given me a way to see the world that fits more with what resonates internally with me. So when I think about those 2x4 experiences, I do bless them after the fact, long after the fact in some cases, and say, wow, that was for my highest good, even though I didn't think it at the time. And it was because I wanted something more, because I was on this quest to do things in a way that felt good to me. And that's a body sensation. Well, obviously, for lots of years, I did things that didn't feel good to me just because of the way I was programmed, because of the old beliefs that I hadn't let go of. And it hurt my body. My body went through lots of stress over time. And what had started off as kind of acute stress that hit and then went away, seeded into chronic stress. And chronic stress in the body, as they know now, seeds the ground for all kinds of physical challenges, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, many kinds of things that hit us physically stem from how we are in our beingness, in the way we deal with stress or not. And so the consequences of the settling and allowing myself to buy into the notion that life is all about suffering was really hard on me physically. And I could have done my body a favor had I known sooner, had I known earlier that what I was doing to myself, it was an unwitting thing. I didn't do it on purpose, but in an odd kind of way, I was on purpose. I was on purpose to begin to open up to my best life. I'm still figuring that out. Do I have all the answers? No, I just find that the more years I'm on planet Earth, the more questions I have. So if you have some answers, you're welcome to connect with me and let me know, because I'd like to shorten my learning curve here a little bit. So, but isn't that what life is all about, right? We learn from one another. So today, I really wanted you to think about, are you going where your heart's desire most wants to go? Are you doing what feels absolutely right for you? Are you just a little cog in somebody else's wheel that just rote by rote carries on as, oh, well, that's what life is, and I just have to accept it, and blah, blah, blah? Or is there a little fire that's inside you that you haven't kind of fanned into flames? Are there embers there that just a little spark would just, and there'd be this conflagration of yearning to be more of who you are? Because that's what in the end of it, to me, is the beingness. Am I being who I want to be? And that's the goal for me, is am I being? And of course, because that changes every day and every moment, but I still get to gauge just where I'm at. Yes, I'm feeling better today than I felt yesterday. I'm being more of who I am today than I was yesterday. And I want to be more of who I am tomorrow, whatever that looks like, that evolvement and that growth and so on. And of course, what's so cool is that when you are in that mode and living your best life and moving in that direction, you model that for those that come behind, for your children. I mean, that I hope to be a huge role model to my grandchildren, my granddaughters, in a very positive way. I want them to reach for all that they are, and to move into that arena of knowing that it's there for them, that they don't need to be stuck in the kind of the old ways of doing things that don't serve them. Not all old ways are wrong or bad or whatever, but a lot of them don't serve us in where we are right here and right now. So I think it's vital that we start asking these kinds of questions and reflect on, well, what's happened to me up to this point? And based on what's happened to me, what has that taught me? What has that brought me in my growth, my evolution, my moving forward? Because the path to magnificence is really a series of moments, incidents, choices along the way. And we, of course, we we have nothing to do except the consequences of those choices that we make. Oh, I chose this. That maybe wasn't the best thing to choose. Oh well, now I'm in the soup. I got to figure a way out of it, or turn down the heat somehow. And so, but moment by moment, we learn, we experiment, we try things, we fail miserably. We say, oh, I'm not good at that. Look at how, oh, excuse me, look at how many times I've failed. Look at how many times I've almost got there and not quite. And so a friend of mine used to say, well, I haven't had my best day yet. So, well, I get where he was going with that, there's a better day ahead and a better day ahead. But of course, maybe if we accept the fact that this is the best day yet, this is the best moment yet, and revel in that and take it on, instead of saying, oh well, I wish it was time for my holiday. I wish it was, we futurize and wish our lives away, and forget that this moment right here, right now, is all we really have. For sure, I'm in it. This is it. And will tomorrow's cup of tea be as good as the one that I'm sipping right at the moment? No guarantees. Maybe they'll turn the water off and I can't make a cup of tea. So I really want to encourage you, challenge you to reflect on your life thus far. Look at the challenges that maybe inadvertently you invited in, or maybe on purpose you invited in, to say, oh, how would that turn out? And especially the really significant ones, the ones that just give you that 2x4 experience. It isn't about how you suffered with that. It isn't about the pain that caused. It's about the meaning that you can get from the suffering that you went through. So why did I suffer? What was that all about? What can I learn from that? Was there a gift that came out of that? And I know for me personally, in retrospect, all of those seemingly horrific experiences, and a lot of them felt very horrific at the time, there was no denying that. But the gifts that came out of that, what the result of all of that, has shaped me to be who I am. And I'm pretty happy with who I am now. And I'm grateful for those experiences to open my eyes, to shake me out of my comfort zone and say, whoa, pay attention, look here. And then my eyes would get wide open and whoa, oh, I didn't see that before. So, and of course, not all, it's not only 2x4 experiences that teach us necessarily the life's biggest lessons. I think we can learn some pretty big lessons from glorious happenings like the birth of a child and falling in love and some of those other experiences that we get. But it all boils down to what we do with what we get, how we take that in, how we process the whole of it and say, okay, now what? Now where do I go from here? You're magnificent enough to take on this challenge and do some reflection. And obviously, if life is not going in the direction that you want it to go, you're feeling that maybe you're at a pivotal point in your life and you're feeling that sense of unease or lack, or something is not quite resonating with me, then maybe it's time for a change. And if you deliberately decide to step into that new change, scary though it may be, maybe you don't need, maybe that's your 2x4 experience. Maybe you have created that doorway without having to have something happen. And I think it's possible. I think it's entirely possible. But that's just my guess. I don't know for sure. Until next week, dear friends, do be your magnificent selves. If you're enjoying Tea with Sue, we're here every Friday. I record these videos on the Global Strong channel live and then upload to my YouTube channel, Sue Paulson. And of course, you can always find all the Tea with Sue videos on my app, The Magnificence Mentor, which is a free download. There's lots of content on there to keep you fired up and inspired and moving forward in your life. Until next week, bye for now.